Fall makeup can be so fun, but if you have fair skin, you may dread it a little bit because a lot of the inspo pics either look like this or this, and on your skin they just appear way too heavy and dull and honestly just make you look like you have so much makeup on even if you didn't put a lot on. If that sounds familiar to you, also story of my life, that's why I developed this ultimate guide for fair skin to do fall makeup. These are all of my top tips and tricks and all the products I tried over the years that actually work for fair skin to give you that fall vibe look in your makeup without anything looking too heavy or harsh, still making your skin shine and feeling like you still look like yourself. I absolutely love doing these videos and I love that so many of you find them helpful. It's like all the videos I wish I had when I was first learning to do makeup, so learn from my mistakes and my product regrets. I have tons of products here. It's gonna be a little bit of a longer video, so settle in even if it's just in the background. We're gonna get into some really unmissable product picks and tips, so I hope you enjoy it. Let's go ahead and get started. And of course, don't forget to subscribe if you find this video helpful or enjoyable at any point, and a thumbs up really helps this video get to other people who may also find it helpful. To get started for a fall highlight, you may be thinking of something warmer, more of like a champagne gold, which for me just never flatters my skin. So if you're wanting to sort of venture out into something that's a little bit more of like a fall tone, but isn't gonna pull yellow or too dark on your skin, I would recommend something that's like a little bit more champagne. One of my favorites, I actually just recently tried this but really enjoy it. This is a mini version of the Bobbi Brown highlighting powder, and this is the shade Pink Glow. They have a couple different shades of this, but as you can see, it has more of this like rose gold shade, and then it also has that white, so it keeps it nice and flattering for fair skin. Hopefully you can see like the really beautiful tone, like it adds a little bit of warmth, but I don't feel like it pulls too dark on my skin. I'm gonna go ahead and apply that with a fan brush. Fan brush is also gonna be really helpful. It just applies a lot less pigment. Really recommend this for any kind of highlighter. I do have the rest of my base on. Obviously, I will go ahead and link what I have on below. And I don't know why I'm doing highlight before blush. That's a little bit weird. Let's go for it, but I do have a bunch of blush recommendations. Next for blush, one of my biggest tips is to go for a shade that is maybe darker than a typical shade that you'd wear on the everyday basis. Say if you usually wear like a light purpley pink blush, you can try a berry tone. So within that same color family, you can try a deeper shade, but instead of using those like really pigmented formulas, I would recommend something that is more sheer. It just looks so much better on us as a wash of color. It's way easier to control. I would avoid any kind of like liquid blush that's super pigmented, like the Rare Beauty ones, like the e.l.f. ones. I know everyone loves those, but they're just so pigmented. Especially when we're going to deeper colors, I would go for a more sheer formula. So some of my favorites here, this first one is from KVD. This is the Glowlita 10 Modcon Gel Blush. Beautiful berry tone. Let me go ahead and swatch these for you. But because it is that sheer formula, I put a lot here on the swatch. But with less product, when you blend this out, it just gives you a really beautiful like wash of berry. Like it almost looks like a berry stain on your cheeks. So you can see how you can go with those more bold colors and not have it look super overwhelming. Another great one is this Merit Beauty blush. This is the Mood Cheek color. This is like a deep berry brown almost. This is a really nice sheer formula. This one has some more like neutral mauve tones to it, but as I'm blending it out, it does have that same nice juicy sheer formula. So depending on what kind of tone you want to go for, really like both of those. If you wanted to go even deeper, this one has more pigment than the previous ones I mentioned, but still really beautiful. This is the Tower 28 Beach Please in the shade After Hours. This is a cream formula. If you've never tried these, they do actually have quite a bit of pigment to them, but they're really like customizable. Like if you just use a little bit and you blend this out, it's gonna give you definitely more of a bold look, but it doesn't just like dry down really quickly like those liquid ones. And as you can see, it gives you more of that like diffused look. I think that's key with these two, is something that will diffuse into your skin a bit more instead of looking like you just put a bunch of pigment on your skin. This one has some more of like those pinky berry tones to it. And I think red blush is another great shade to try if you want something that is more bold. This is the PIXI On The Glow blush formula. I love these again because they're sheer, and red is actually such a flattering tone for everybody, but this has such like a coolish cherry tone to it. and when it's blended out, it actually looks really natural and just gives you this like beautiful, more fall blush vibe. It's a little bit brighter almost than the rest of these, so if you're looking for more brightness, I think this one is really pretty. And we're not done yet. I told you I had tons of recommendations that I wanted to share. I wanted to mention 2 powder formulas. First is a new product to me, but I've been loving these, the Fenty Beauty blush formulas, the shade Summertime Wine in 04. I did a full review and swatch video. These are so silky. This is like the perfect fall powder blush in my opinion. It is so pretty. It's definitely more of a pink berry, so it's not going to show up too dark, and these are really blendable and they sheer out really well with like a looser packed brush. And then like the quintessential fall blush for me, the Hourglass Mood Exposure blush. This I've had for so long. You probably know this is a favorite of mine. This gives you like a berry tone, but it's a very muted mauve, so if you're looking for something that's just like really natural looking, I would recommend this one. It almost feels like slightly warmer if you wanted to go for like a slightly neutral, warm, berryish hue for your skin. This one has that beautiful glow to it. Love the formula and just perfection. So I think today I'm gonna go in with the Fenty Beauty Summertime Wine shade. It's just so beautiful. I'm gonna use the brush that they make for it because it's nice and loose. So another good tip, if you're using a powder blush or even a cream, any of your makeup in general, when you get the product onto your brush, you can use your hand, you can use a rag if you don't like getting makeup on your hand. Whenever you get the pigment on, work it into your hand or the rag or whatever you're using. It's just going to disperse the pigment evenly onto your brush, so when you apply it, it's even, but also it takes off a lot of the excess product, because if you've ever used like a blush or bronzer and you put it on your skin and it's just, you have to redo your makeup because there's so much pigment, especially when you are using darker colors. This is such a good tip. So we do already have that highlight on, but I'm gonna go ahead and stipple that over the cheek products that we already have on. And this is just such a pretty shade. Another good tip is if you feel like a blush is really bold, you could always keep it on the backs of your cheeks more versus having a lot right here. That will overall just give you a little bit of a less like darker, heavy look versus having it more towards the backs of your cheekbones. Love the shade. I feel like it's very fall, but does not overpower the look, but still is giving us that like berry vibe. Now into eyeshadow, we can definitely have a lot of fun here, but instead of thinking of fall makeup as very warm orange bronze tones, think of more like trees that are losing their leaves. They're not just those orange tones, you also get those red tones, the berry tones, light maroons. I think for fair skin, especially if you have more cool tone skin, leaning into those shades a little bit more tend to be more flattering for us. So I have a lot of recommendations here. First is this palette from Persona. This is the Identity palette. This is the original one. I also like the second one. This one is really pretty because you get these like, even if you wanted to go more warm toned like this gold here, they're very muted. I feel like all the shades in here give you a fall vibe, but they're muted, and besides maybe like this very warm shade, but they're so blendable. They look beautiful on the skin. They're just so easy to use. Like you can do so many things with this palette, ranging from very light looks to darker looks, like every day. It just is all in one. Love this, such a gem. And then when I thought of this video, I immediately thought of this palette, which is the Flower Beauty Desert Lights palette. This is a 6-pan metallic only formula, so you don't get any mattes in here. But if you're just looking to add something to like supplement your collection, you have this gold here. Then you have these like pinky bronzes, you have this beautiful berry tone, you have this like deep burgundy. These are so metallic. You can just use one of these and it makes like a whole look, and it definitely gives you the fall deeper makeup vibe. But because it's so shiny, it doesn't appear as heavy as matte dark shades do appear, and I love this formula. This is so pretty. I also love these little Charlotte Tilbury palettes. I don't know if they have this exact colorway, but they do have similar ones. These are their luxury palettes, the color-coded eyeshadows. This is the shade Mesmerizing Maroon. If you wanted to go more of like a berry purple tone, this has one matte but 3 shimmers. I feel like they're beautiful. I don't love a lot of Charlotte Tilbury. I feel like it's overpriced, but the eyeshadows are one place where it's like, if you just wanted a little quad, I think this is a beautiful one. And then just for a eyeshadow single, I like this MAC one in Satin Taupe. If you didn't want to go really warm toned at all, this is a pretty deeper shade, but it has this like lighter pigment level, and because it has that sheen to it, it doesn't appear as heavy like I mentioned. Going for something with more shimmer in it, it's gonna look a little bit more flattering. Also love the shade from our mess. It's the Strobe Eyelight. This is just like the quintessential perfect taupe shade that you could build up, and it doesn't look too dark on my hand, but on my eyes it definitely pulls. It's like a deeper, smokier shade. But for a look today, I think I'm gonna be using both the Persona palette and the Flower Beauty palette. So if we're doing eyeshadow on pale skin, you can make any color work. Just have to make sure that you're really shearing it down. If you're doing anything that's super dark, making sure you're using a fluffier brush, starting with a small amount. But I do feel like just going for more muted tones in general are just so much more flattering and easy to use for us. So let's go ahead and start in the Persona palette. I'm just gonna start with a transition shade. This is like a lighter, peakier shade. It's not gonna show up too dark. It's just going to give us a guideline for the deeper shades. It's also a really helpful technique to just have a little bit of a guide for those deeper shades to blend into. Next, taking this darker brown, which is called Maverick. It definitely has some more neutral tones to it, but it is quite a deep shade. Taking a smaller, fluffier brush. This Persona eyeshadow formula is just so nice for fair skin as well. They're not super pigmented, they're like just pigmented enough, and they really are blendable, which is really important for fair skin, is something that's blendable and not just gonna like stick on your eye and not blend out. So I'm going to deepen out the sort of crease with this shade, and then I like to just look at the shadow and gauge if I do want to go darker. It's always better to start off lighter, and I feel like I do want to deepen up a little bit more, so just a tiny bit more of that shadow. And I'm going to deepen up a little bit closer to the like outer V this time. I'm really tempted to use this like olive green. This palette has so many pretty shades, but I think I'm gonna dip into the Flower Beauty Desert Lights palette. And decisions. These are all so pretty. I think I'm actually gonna start with that same brush I was using, and then using this really deep, like, let me do a little swatch. It's a really rich brown. It's definitely a warmer brown, but it kind of has some like red undertones. Like, look at that pigment. So taking that on a little bit of a fluffy brush. These are a really creamy formula, by the way, so I like to work them into the brush, and then I'm going to sort of blend that in to the outer half of my lid. When you're doing darker shades as well, I would say definitely more for like if you have lower contrast like I do, which is you have light hair, light eyes, you don't have a lot of contrast in your features, by the way. I mentioned this in all my fair skin videos, but if you have fair skin and darker hair, you can pull off pretty dark makeup. But if you are like as light as me, when you're using a darker shade, keeping it on the outer corner is gonna help like keep your face overall looking a lot like brighter versus having a really heavy shade on the inner corner. Also just taking a touch of that shade on a smaller brush for the lower lash line, but just the very outer corner. So I think I'm actually going to dip into this gold, which is definitely a warmer shade, which I don't typically use, but you can definitely wear gold for fall still. I'm gonna show you how I use this. I'm gonna use that on my finger. This gives you the most color payoff, just on the middle of the lid. And this is a gold that's not too orange or yellow. It's quite a like bronzy, I don't know what to call it, almost like coppery gold. And when you pair this kind of shade with more of the berry cooler toned browns, it also helps to bring it into a cooler toned direction, also keeping those inner corners nice and bright. For the inner corner, going into the Persona palette, this light color called Sassy, which is just a light bright shimmer shade. I'm gonna put this on the inner corners. I'm also gonna pop that on the brow bone. Another great way to add fall tones to your makeup, if you didn't want to do like heavy eyeshadow at all, is to use either a shadow as a shadowed wing in more of a fall color, like a deep berry. I would probably use something a little more similar to the Charlotte Tilbury one, even something a little bit more red as a shadow liner. Or you can use something like this. It's the Make Beauty waterproof felt tip liner. This is the shade Meteorite. This is just a beautiful deep berry. So any kind of shade that you feel like is more fall, just as a liner, it's a lot more natural looking and a fun way to add color without doing a whole bunch of eyeshadow if you just don't like eyeshadow. I am going to do a shadow wing to still keep things soft. I'm gonna go into this very deep brown in the Persona palette called Fearless. So I just went ahead and stamped that on because I'm not really looking for anything too heavy. Love a shadow liner, especially for fair skin, try it out. And then I do also really love using a color in the waterline, but don't think black or brown, thinking something metallic that's more of a mid or light tone. This is one of my favorite tricks. It just looks so pretty on really any eye color, and it's just like a fun way to add color as well without it being too much. I have a bunch of different ones of these NYX ones, but this is a really nice bronzy color. The NYX Epic Wear Liner Stick in Gilded Taupe. Gives you a little bit more of that bronzy tone, but it definitely has that like a burnt gold, like a burnished gold. And then I also really like the Victoria Beckham gel liner. This is the shade Bronze. I'm just realizing these may be like dupes for each other. So this is the Victoria Beckham liner, and this is the NYX one. They're honestly so similar. The thing with the Victoria Beckham one though is it definitely blends more, and the NYX one kind of stays in place. So if you're looking to smoke it out, you might still want to stick with the Victoria Beckham one. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that one in my waterline. So right away it gives you that intensity without looking too harsh like black or brown does. I do want to sort of blend it into the lower lash line a little bit more. So I think I'm actually going to use this shade from the Persona palette called Goddess, which is just a metallic bronze. Next for mascara, I think this is such a great fall makeup item for fair skin. If you really just didn't want to do too much and just wanted like a pop of color, something a little bit different that anybody could use, the CoverGirl Eye Enhancer, they have this berry brown mascara shade, which is like a very beautiful maroon shade mascara. It's just so beautiful and gives you like that fall maroon look in such a subtle way. I'm gonna do some lash curling first. So here's the berry brown mascara I had on. You can't really tell like on camera how pretty it is, especially like from the side or like if you're in sunlight. It just gives such a level of interest to your makeup, and it's so easy, like just having that colored mascara. I absolutely love this, and I feel like it's really tying in with like the rest of these tones too. And I think this look is such a great example of it doesn't have to be super cool tone like berry toned. It can still have like a slightly warmer fall vibe but still be very flattering by just using the techniques that I mentioned. Now I definitely want to put a lip on. I have a ton of lip recommendations because I feel like it's a hard category. So for fall lip colors, if you're looking to do a deeper lip, I have two lip liners here. The clip kind of creased my hair, which is annoying, but I have two lip liners here that I would recommend that are deeper tones. These are cool tones for me. I really like to stick with cool tones on my lips. They're the most flattering. So the two I have here is one from ColourPop. You know I love Cool BFF. This is like the darker older sister of Cool BFF called Ashton, which is a really similar cool undertone. It just has more depth to it. Pulls a little bit more like a purple brown. Then we also have a NYX lip pencil. Love this formula as well. Really long lasting. This is the shade Nude Truffle, which you know I like nude beige. This is also like the slightly darker version of it. I find that this has a little bit more like pink in it. It's slightly darker than the ColourPop one as well. So my tip for wearing bolder lip colors for the fall is to stick with the same tones that you probably know and love that you do for a nude lip. Going for something deeper, but like I mentioned with like the cheek shades, is picking a more sheer formula just makes them so much more wearable. Gives you the same kind of look, but just looks a lot more flattering on fair skin. So I have a bunch of options here to show you. First is the Bare Minerals. It's the lip balm in the shade Friendship, which is like a slightly more warm like chestnut brown, but because it has that sheerness, it's just beautiful. It never looks too dark or like heavy. I also love the Flower Beauty lip stains. This is the shade Play, which is sort of like a berry red tone, and it is a lip stain, so it goes on a little bit more sheer. It gives you like a red berry tone in a more sheer formula. That's a lip stain. It's long lasting, hydrating. Really love these. And then another good option would be to go for a gloss because it has that shine. It doesn't appear as dark or heavy. This is the Victoria Beckham Posh Gloss. This is the shade Fizz, which is sort of a like mid-tone mauvey pinky gloss. If you're looking to go more that route, it still does have a nice amount of pigment to it, as you can see, compared to these others. So it still gives you a really nice amount of color, but it has the sheerness and like lightness of a gloss. And then I also think the Naturium Vito Glow lip balms are a good option for adding more bold color in a sheer formulation. This is the shade Mocha, which is definitely like a warmer deep brown if you're wanting to go like a lot more chocolatey compared to the Bare Minerals one, which is definitely lighter, has like a little bit more of like a, I don't know if it's like a pink hue, but this one is definitely more like of a chocolatey brown. And then you can apply that same thinking to lipsticks. These are some of my favorite like fall shades, and some of them do have more pigment to them, but the shades are so flattering that I love them. So first is Victoria Beckham as well. This is the Pose lipstick. This is like a deep, it's actually not that deep, it just comes off deep on me. This is like a mid-tone, like berryish, nudish brown. It's so pretty. And then I love, love, love this one from Rose Inc. If I'm going for like a bold lip, this formula is so flattering because it's so sheer and really balmy. The Rose Inc. lipstick, lipstick in the shade Eloquent. This is like a true cool toned berry. It's so buildable, but you can sheer it out. It is stunning. I love this as a purple lip. It's a really flattering shade. And then I also love this drugstore option, the CoverGirl lipstick in the shade Romance Mauve. Is another good, more like lighter pink mauve-y option that is still very flattering for fair skin. None of these pull warm, by the way. You know, I'm very specific about lipsticks and lip colors not pulling warm. And then Merit Beauty 1990 is such a beautiful brown. So pretty if you wanted to go brown. Has, yeah, slightly more warmth to it, but it doesn't pull too orange or anything. And then the new RMS Legendary lipsticks in the shade Naomi. This is like a more berry mid-tone pinky mauve. So pretty, so buildable. All of these definitely have some sort of glow to them. None of them are really like a super flat matte, so they don't appear too dark or heavy on the skin, but a lot of good options here. I hope you can find something that you'll end up liking. So let me see what kind of combo. I feel like because we went a little bit more bronze on the eyes, I might go a little bit more brown with the lip. So let me actually start with the NYX Nude Truffle liner. I think I'm really tempted to go for the Victoria Beckham Pose lipstick. Maybe we'll put a gloss over this. Yeah, this is so pretty. Isn't that gorgeous? It like definitely gives me the like drama of a fall makeup, even though it doesn't, like, you wouldn't look at that and be like, that's a super deep shade, but on fair skin, it gives you that effect without looking too dark. I'm actually just loving this lipstick on its own. I feel like it's such a perfect shade. Really goes with that like burgundy mascara as well. But those were all of my favorite tips for fair skin doing fall makeup. I wanted to do something a little bit warmer. I know I do a lot of cool tones on the channel. You can lean more purple with this look, but it's also possible to incorporate some more warm tones if you wanted to, using the techniques I mentioned. Hope you found it helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you did, so you don't miss my next ultimate guide video. I'm also gonna pop my fair skin playlist on the screen here, so you can keep watching. I have tons of other tips for fair skin that I think you're gonna love, so I'll see you over there. Bye.